We will have Jonathan Bourguignon coming with us. He's the writer of Internet Year Zero, a great book that I recommend you to read. It's in French right now, but I hope it will be translated in English soon. Internet Year Zero. And can we have Jonathan on stage with us to talk about this? If we translate Internet Year Zero from Silicon Valley to China, birth and mutation of the network. Hello, Jonathan. How are you?
Hey, Mehdi. Fine. How are you?
Yeah, good. I would say Jonathan. Sorry, Jonathan. Hello, Jonathan. How are you?
So yeah, my name is in French also, Jonathan.
Yeah, I invite you to share your screen. I know it's a great book. You took a long time to write. I know your deep knowledge on the topic, yeah, please share what you have with us, and let's keep all the time you had initially. Right? Don't rush.
Okay, thanks. So today we'll talk about big tech, cybernetics, blockchain, zeitgeist, and why it's important to look behind before you start looking ahead. And I'll start with a bit of bad news, but I'm sure you're all aware already. Currently, everybody hates tech. It's not so bad. It's just a point in time. 10 years ago, it was different. 10 years ago, everybody loved Google. Most people kind of loved Facebook also. And 10 years ago, everybody hated the banks. And well, the banks were so powerful. And today, tech is so powerful. So maybe just people hate power. And also, like the banks had it coming. Greece, mortgage, subprime crisis. But also, like in the past 10 years, tech also had it coming. We had Snowden, who revealed to us that our systems could be turned into mass surveillance systems. The Cambridge Analytica hack told us that our social networks could be turned into mass manipulation systems. We had that sad event of the assassination of Jamal Khashoggi that led Silicon Valley to wonder about the morality of its financing system. And for the past 18 months to 2 years now, we've had a taste of what it means to live in tech-enhanced society of control. We've had images from abroad. We lived intermittent lockdowns. And so as a result, we all now feel in our flesh what these writers were talking to us about 95 years ago in the case of Zamyatin. And so Orwell and Zamyatin were talking about a dystopic future of communism. Aldous Huxley was talking about a dystopic future of capitalism and liberalism, but they shared a few features. All these futures shared features, among which surveillance, thought control, inequalities, concentration of power, and some level of segregation. And so today, everybody hates tech. Everybody hates Facebook, and even Facebook hates their brand so much, they had to turn it into Meta. And it's not such a dumb idea, because actually Facebook has always been about building the metaverse, and we will get to that a bit later. And most people today associate the metaverse with the idea of decentralization and blockchain and Web3, and what's more remote from authority and surveillance than decentralization, right? But so the question is, if you don't hate the metaverse, but you hate Facebook, and Facebook is the metaverse, does it mean that you only hate the powerful version of Facebook? And so the same question might be, did we identify what actually turned our beloved Google and Facebook into machines of mass manipulation and dystopian futures? I think that's pretty important, as in this room we are all building tech. Personally, I've been involved with blockchain projects for the past 6 years now. So to me, it's especially important. But I think it's important to everyone and not only to people who build tech, because obviously ideologies shape technologies. Technologies are objects that have been thought and belong to a system and a society. But the very sentence of 1984, when Winston says, "I love Big Brother," he actually means "I love Big Brother." That's the whole meaning of the book. Is not confessing, Inquisition style torture, etc. Is he actually the system, the process? Big Brother turned his mind, and now he loves Big Brother. So technologies also have the power to shape ideologies, and that's why we need to be very careful. And so if we look in the past and try to identify what are some of these ideologies that have been responsible for what happened with big tech. So let's get back to our guinea pig for today, Facebook. So Zuckerberg tells us the mission did not change. It's still about connecting people. He says 3D spaces in the metaverse will let you socialize, learn, collaborate, and play in ways that go beyond what we can imagine. Does that ring a bell? Let me read something else to you. Cyberspace consists of transactions, relationships, and thought itself arrayed like a standing wave in the web of our communications. Ours is a world that is both everywhere and nowhere, but it is not where bodies live. This is 1996, John Perry Barlow for the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the EFF. The EFF was this influence group who's responsible for a number of pamphlets that basically created the image of the internet as a place of emancipation and inclusivity and liberty, for abundance and sustainability, because moving bits is not like moving atoms, so wealth can be shared, etc. And so the founders of the EFF met on the Well, and the Well is basically the mother of all Facebooks, of all social networks, of all chats, of all forums. It was a forum that started in 1985, so before the web, the graphical interface for the internet even existed. And the Well was one of the many ventures, mainly lobbies and medias such as Wired, created by a group of people that came to be known as the Techno-Utopians, because they were having all these big talks about the cyber utopia. Among them, there was William Gibson, the author of Neuromancer, and also a writer in Wired. And Neuromancer is the first book in which the word cyberspace was actually coined. And of course, when Zuckerberg creates Facebook, he doesn't know about all that story. Rumor has it he doesn't even know who is Mark Andreessen when he's introduced to him, and you can't blame him because he's like 20. But the fact that he doesn't know this story doesn't mean that he's not influenced by it. It doesn't mean that the whole spirit of the times doesn't lead to the emergence of an idea like cyberspace. Where am I? Yeah, and so Zuckerberg is actually the chosen one, the one that would bring cyberspace into reality, that would create this new world of endless possibilities, where creativity is shared among all people. And well, actually, it's not exactly the cyberspace that's been created by the GAFA. Cyberspace was supposed to be a new world, but if you look closely, what the GAFA created is just an overlay on the world. If you think about Google is just amassing data that already exists. They are even mapping our very streets, and users, consumers, are using Apple products and sensors on Apple products to capture reality and put it in the cloud, put it in Facebook, where they also upload their relationships, because you never ever met someone on Facebook. You just imported your existing relationship into the social graph. And then you can send some very material products using Amazon. And so when you say that, there's no wonder that the NSA and the Chinese Communist Party are very interested in having access and control over this cyberspace, because it's control over the economy and the society and reality. And so if Zuckerberg didn't create the vision of cyberspace that was promised by the techno-utopians, what did he create exactly? And then you have to look at the word itself. Like cyberspace, it comes from cybernetics, which might sound funny today, a bit old-fashioned, but it was quite the rage in the 50s and 60s. It was very influential, and cybernetics is a theory. It's a method for analyzing systems, any system. So it can be a machine, it can be an array of machine, industrial environment, it can be the ecosystem, it can be a living body, it can be the human mind. It doesn't matter, because the principle of cybernetics is, if you can capture enough signals inside of the system, if you can capture all these signals and feed them to the machine, then you can predict the outcome, you can predict the behavior, and you can optimize and influence the behavior. And so obviously when I say it's been influential, it's exactly how we use AI today. AI for us is a way to look at systems and not think about the causality, not build a model, not understand the motivation of the agents, etc. Just feed it to the machine and see what goes out. So it's been very influential in the fields of mathematics and AI, computer science, but also in psychology, because behaviorism is all about that, or also ecology and the way we model ecosystem and put them more simple in the form of carbon 14 emissions and offset, etc. And just so as an aside, because cybernetics has been widely associated with the war against Nazism, because most of the theories were created in World War II labs. But talking about zeitgeist and that ideas emerge when society is ripe and not necessarily out of individuals, exactly at the same time, on the Third Reich, there was also a general theory of control built by Dr. Schmidt. End of the aside. And so the Cambridge Analytica hack is the perfect embodiment of this cybernetic vision. You take all the data about population and you try to predict and influence the outcome of election. And it's not been proven that it really worked, that the Cambridge Analytica hack had a measurable effect on the 2016 election, but the mere fact that it existed proves the influence today of this theory. And so the relationship between cybernetics and the techno-utopians, well, basically it's everywhere in their publications. This is the Whole Earth catalog, which was their first venture. Last episode was in '69, sold to more than 1 million copies. People such as Steve Jobs said it was Google in paperback form 35 years before Google even existed. In his most famous speech, he quoted the catalog as his last words: "Stay hungry, stay foolish," which are also the last words of the last version on the last page of the catalog. And so we land. And so the Whole Earth catalog belongs to the same family of ventures as the Well, so the mother of all Facebooks, and the Well actually means Whole Earth Electronic Link. And so we land with this very simplified, and I could even say simplistic equation. I'm aware of that, like we only have 20 minutes together, so we cannot really go into the intrications of all the ideologies that influenced tech over the past 70 years. But bear with me with that equation. Cybernetics leads to techno-utopia, that leads to society of control. And so as we are moving away from big tech, we don't believe in it, we don't want it anymore. We see new tech paradigms arriving. We want to create new things, and so let's focus on just one of these waves, decentralization. The first question we asked at the beginning was, how did the decentralized world get rid of the fundamentals of the ideology that turned Google and Facebook into machines of surveillance? So Facebook tells us they don't want to create the cybernetic vision, the cybernetic version of cyberspace. Now they want to create the metaverse. They don't want all your data anymore. And so Zook says it's a future made by all of us. The metaverse will be a collective project that goes beyond a single company, will be created by people all over the world, and I'll take his word for it. But that's not his vision. That's rather the vision of Web3 and decentralization. So let's move to Web3 and decentralization. How did they get rid of techno-utopia? So techno-utopia used to say information wants to be free. Now with NFTs, information wants to be scarce. Every single pixel on this crypto zombie is worth a lot. So yeah, they got rid of that. Techno-utopia used to say move bits, not atoms. And if you look at Bitcoin's proof of work relies precisely on the fact that you're burning energy at the end of the chain to provide value. Lawrence Lessig used to warn that code is law, meaning not everybody understands code, and there can be many things hidden and ideologies hidden in the code, and it somehow turned into trustless systems. We don't trust any institution anymore, and we should not trust no one but the code. So we got rid of techno-utopia, all right. And so if that's the centralized world dystopia in a world of liberalism. We said like the main features were exclusion, segregation, restrictions of freedom, thought control, concentration of power. So let's see how that works in the world of blockchain. So first, NFTs. NFTs, information doesn't want to be free. We want ownership, we want trading, we want wealth measured in financial value, we want exclusivity, we want to be uniquely flattered by being part of exclusive clubs such as the Bored Apes Yacht Club, which you can enter only if you own the right NFT, and these NFTs are worth much more than the crypto zombie before. So communitarism, exclusion, check. Next, we hated the banks because they were concentrating wealth and power. So how does concentration of wealth live in most decentralized finance schemes? So basically you have two main schools. One is Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is deflationary. So the more you own today, very likely the more you will own in the future. So the more you own, the more you own. And most other cryptocurrencies rely on staking. And with staking, the more you own, the more you can access to staking. And staking means having a fairly big yield on what you provide, between 12 and 20% a year. And so the more you own, the more you own. Rising inequalities, check. And then you have DAOs. So DAOs are a new way to handle governance inside an organization. It's like moving your shareholders meeting on the blockchain to make the governance more secure, transparent, auditable, with a clear log of decisions, etc. And it can be applied to obviously more things than just shareholders meeting, than just companies, because you don't need a legal structure to use a DAO. So that's very powerful, and exactly for that reason, one needs to be very careful about how to settle a DAO, because with DAOs, code is law. And so let's look at your new future. Say you live in a neighborhood. You think it would be a good idea to handle all day-to-day affairs of the neighborhood on a DAO. And outside, inequalities rise. The world is more and more insecure. Some people in your neighborhood think it would be a good idea to just put smart locks around the neighborhood, control access, with a crypto wallet, decentralized identity, because at least privacy will be guaranteed. Add cameras, face recognition, etc. You don't necessarily agree, but it's voted on the DAO. And on the DAO, the vote is not one person, one vote. It's one token, one vote, and token represent financial value. And so, like, there's this one person in the neighborhood who owns the biggest house, and they basically decide with the vote that you should now live in a gated community, and so you now live in a gated community. And now we have a future where inequalities rise, where there are control access everywhere, and basically it's exactly the same future as we had before. So you see where I'm going. The question is, what is the influence? Like, do we have exactly the same ideological influence when we build system and technological systems today as we had 10, 20, and 30 years ago? And so, as I mentioned, cybernetics is only one part, but let's keep focusing on cybernetics. Some of the things that we inherited from the cybernetic vision, and that, in my opinion, we don't challenge much today, is that connecting the whole world would be inherently good, that everything should be measured and modeled, that everything should be tracked and and optimized. And these three items lead, the first one, to cultural standardization. We know that since the age of TV. Simplistic schemes such as carbon offsetting in the second one, that don't really change the way we use space on the planet. And the third one just means that anything can be put under control. And the question why we didn't put all these things into question, in my opinion, is just because we're being lazy. If you take cybernetics, it allows you not to create a model, not to think about the vision, not to think about the causality, and in the end, not to create a political point of view. But putting everything under control is actually very political. And so what we can do is be clear about our ideologies, what world we want to live in, and to do that, reclaim the ability to think collectively, which means to build ideologies. And so to conclude, I'll just share one last story. This man is Pierre Waldeck-Rousseau. He was the president of the council, the prime minister, if you will, of France, beginning of last century. He passed the Associations Bill of 1901 at a time when, in his analysis, the Republic was in danger. And the Republic was in danger because the people were not ready to defend the democratic principles if they were being attacked. And the reason for that is that people didn't know what it was to live in a democracy. Most people didn't vote, they didn't understand the political system, etc. And so for the first time in 200 years, he authorized corporations, he authorized free associations of citizens, because in his mind, it was a great way to have people experience what it means to have democracy and to use democratic processes to take decisions. And so the parallel is that obviously we are at a time when democracy is in danger and people lost their appetite for debate and confronting views outside of their own bubble of thoughts. And tools tools such as, for example, DAOS could be great to do exactly what Pierre Valdez-Rousseau did, but they're only used for VC-backed startups and DeFi startups currently. And I think as tech builders, we have a responsibility to share and explain and teach the technology and to apply it for the commons, for what belongs to the public, and not only for our startups. Otherwise, we'll keep accelerating the spread of tech that enslaves instead of tech that emancipates. And I will stop there because I start to sound like a techno-utopian.
Yeah, we have some questions first. Thank you very much for the presentation. We have some questions first about is it available in Italian or in English?
It's in negotiation. It's in the hands of the agent currently. If you know English or Italian editor, please send it my way.
So Fabrizio or Karel, if you know editors, you can relate them to Jonathan. So yeah, thank you very much for this. So the question is is it just technology or is it politics behind all of it, right? Is it, how would you describe this big mutation?
So I know how you love politics, and yes, it's politics more than technology. But the fact that technology became so powerful made it just so political, and also so that was in the content. I think that the technology is actually shaping the world in which the politics can deploy. So if we let the technology go too far, the mere possibility of politics will shrink.
So also in the book, you have this not clear comparison, but there's this first part really about, let's say, more the Silicon Valley, the creation of the ARPANET, internet and stuff like that. And then on the second part, you have how it happened in China, you call it the dragon, but also the wake up of the dragon, but also the Great Firewall and how it developed in China in a way that they really had the protectionism of their politics at some point. And so, yeah, in Europe, in all of this, where is Europe in all of between these two network giants?
I think Europe should find what it wants to do. And the reason why I emphasize China so much is that the way that China developed its cyberspace, in my view, and it's a bit cynical, is actually good news for Europe, because China was coming from very far 25 years ago, and they actually managed to shape their cyberspace in a way that it's now totally coherent with the ideology, the will they had for their own society. So if you want to do it, you can do it. And in Europe, I feel like we have these talks of we don't have the power, we cannot do it, too big to fall, etc. And all this to me is just staging. We can do whatever we want. China just proved it.
Yeah, and this quote, it's, I think, I don't remember the name. It's technology is neither good or bad, nor it's neutral. Do you agree with that from all what you've seen in the book?
I guess so. Yeah, that seems pretty right.
Yeah, so it's not neutral because, a lot of tech companies actually come. They have been big winners of the internet, right? All these companies have big rent. They didn't understood the network effects and the network, so they came and they took a lot of rent, accumulate a lot of value, and we are, for most of us, we're users of these companies, so let's not spite them, right? But the thing is, they understood so many things, but they say, oh, we don't do politics, or we are apolitics, or stuff like that. Either in West, in let's say USA or Europe, either in China or stuff like that. Yes, we just do e-commerce, or yes, we just do business. What's your position about companies who say they don't do politics, even we spend 6 hours, 7 hours on their devices or movie platforms or e-commerce website or whatever?
No, yeah, obviously they do politics all the time, and a big a big part of how they grew was related with the Telecommunications Act in '96, I think, and like this ambiguity between being a media and being a platform. But I think we're way beyond that now with obviously what happened during last US election with Twitter and Facebook behaving like the censors and taking the decisions of censorship that might make sense, but just prove that if they wanted to influence and decide who could speak and who could not, even the president of the US could not speak at some time.
Yeah. First idea on the West side before going back to China, but it seems, at least I was living in the US at that time when Trump has been elected, we've seen a lot of the tech giants like positioning themselves about progressivism. It's not good, and they were kind of fighting a little bit against that. Even some people have joined Trump later. But the thing is, it seems the far right was anti-Wall Street. And now it's anti-Silicon Valley too, right? This progressivism that they're pushed, Jeff Bezos funding Barack Obama Foundation and stuff like that. It's like, it seems now there is a new anti-tech versus the far right is anti a lot of stuff, but it's now also anti-tech, anti-big giants.
Yeah, but it's kind of logical. Like progressivism basically means what? The left, like being more about social than about liberty. If you take like right as liberty is more important than anything, and left is equality is more important than anything, and you have to balance between the two. And so tech creates a humongous concentration of power, and even today tech is at the point where most people in Silicon Valley are advocates of UBI, Universal Basic Income. But like Universal Basic Income actually just means we are making so much money that we should decide on what would be the minimal grant that could be allocated to the rest of the people, and we will get richer with our ventures. And I think most people are not fooled, and they can be fooled by other things. But that's the problem of the politics in the US, that it's just so dualistic. You're either for Trump or against Trump, for tech or against tech, and so yeah.
And funny enough, one manager of a top Silicon Valley giant tweeted one time. A program where you can invest on students. You can invest on students. You can pay their schools, but they reimburse you over time. By giving you back a part of the income. And someone just say, "Oh, you just invented free public school and taxes. Perfect." Thank
that
you
was
very
some
much.
time ago, no?
Yeah,
Like,
it was 2 years ago, right, or something like that. But it was
okay.
It was really
like
funny.
this idea I've been talking. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes the thing on the Chinese part. On the Chinese part, did we see any impact on the tech giants with politics? Except Jack Ma disappeared sometime. We don't know where. But did we see any impact on these tech giants? How they're controlled, or how they enable people to think differently about their systems?
Well, I think the Jack Ma story is very, very relevant. Besides just Jack Ma disappearing and appearing again as a school teacher on the countryside, the fact that the listing of Ant Financial, which is part of the Alibaba empire, was postponed, and that some regulations were put to relieve the advantage that Ant Financial had over banks. Like the party has been very interventionist about it, and now they helped their tech giants grow, and now they're limiting their growth. And funny enough, you have international commenters who say like it's suicide, like they don't know what they're doing. The the value of Alibaba just plunged 20% today. But just is not their vision of the world to have a few of their company being worth trillions of dollars, so yeah, they keep intervening on their giants.
Yeah, it seems China really think the long term. And again, there is a joke about the Chinese government. Someone is asking, what do you think about the French Revolution? For China, and the Chinese government person say it happens only 200 years ago. It's too early to say. Well, if it's too young to say if the impact were good or not. So they really believe in the long term. We have one question from the audience, and we will wrap up. The question is how does centralization of IT into clouds by major vendors fits into your story?
Well, it just plays for big tech. Either this data goes into the control of big tech, or you create your cloud, and even if you're an independent company, you're going to grow or you're going to get smaller. And once you have this big honeypot of data, what will you do with it? You will want to play with it. And so my story was about GAFA, as GAFA are the people we hate, as long as Uber, etc. But it's not just GAFA. It's the way we all create these massive warehouses of data, with the idea that we can use data for the better world, and we should absolutely not delete this data, because it will be used, and whether it's in the hands of the users for decentralization or on the cloud, it doesn't change the underlying idea that having lots of data about the world is inherently good.
Last question. Internet year 0, year 1, what will happen?
Oh, you'll have to read my next book.
Yeah, someone said this morning, I'm not sure about predictions, so I will not take any risk. And I think that's a great response when you ask about predictions. I prefer not to say.
I'll do that answer next time. I'll do that answer. That's better.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Jonathan. I hope this book will be translated into English and Italian, but at least you gave us a quick overview of the main ideas that was there. Internet year 0. Yes, and we love to see you for the next one at another Apidays conference to tell a continuing story. Enjoy your day, Jonathan.
Bye-bye.